Hello, good evening and welcome to UPfront. Now, residents and Ghanaian traders at Suame in the Ashanti region have forced Nigerian traders there to close down their shops, claiming that their activities are illegal. This may sound familiar, but this comes on the heels of Ghanaian traders attacking and ransacking shops of their Nigerian counterparts, burning lorry tires today. Just today. Especially, this comes after the Ashanti Regional Police Command assured these Nigerian traders of maximum security, urging them to continue their business following a meeting yesterday. Of course, this also comes on the heels of a recent wave of accusations of wrongdoings leveled against Nigerians and actually West Africa's most populous state and its representatives here in Ghana. Are we losing control of this security situation? Are we bordering on the lines of xenophobic attacks? Can we reverse the trend? And is Ghana going down the abyss of attacking its neighbors justifiably, unjustifiably? What's the permanent solution to this? We've summoned MPs on the Interior and Defense Committee in Parliament to look at the security situation we are dealing with. And beyond that, what's the big way forward? That's the thrust of our conversation today up front. Now, we'll be starting by the people who have actually gathered here in the studio. But after that, before then, let's take a break. You welcome back. This is UPfront. Now, very close to me is the Vice Chair of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, but more importantly, I'm given to understand that he's also the Chairman now of the Government Assurance Committee in Parliament. And the Honorable colleague Owusu-Amankwah. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And a former Deputy Minister in the Interior Ministry, the ministry previously in charge of internal security, is also with us here. Indeed, he's now the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. The Honorable James Agala, you're welcome too.
Thank you, Raymond.
We didn't expect that it would degenerate, but it looks like so many issues with Nigeria at the center of it happening here in the country. First and foremost is the current happenings in Kumasi. Shops were promised to be open today, but some form of demonstration ransacking has happened, and Ghanaian traders have taken virtual control of the area, with the security not being able to control it at first. We understand that now the situation has improved, but is this worth commending, or is an act that we need to condemn?
Raymond, let me say good evening to your viewers, and to say that happenings in Kumasi is very unfortunate and should be roundly condemned by all well-meaning Ghanaians and people living within our territory. What happened today in Kumasi is uncharacteristic of the Ghanaian. It's un-Ghanaian. Let me put it that way. We are noted as people who are very accommodating and welcoming in our dealings with strangers, or if you like, foreigners. And so the sudden turn of events in Kumasi, even after we had been assured by the police that the Nigerian traders in the Suame area will be protected and that they had struck some form of accord with Guta. Seriously speaking, I am taken aback that after all those assurances, people have taken the law into their hands and have resorted to xenophobic attacks. I mean, let us remind all that xenophobia is a hate crime. It is actually a crime against and should not be countenanced in this country. Look, when South Africa experienced xenophobic attacks and violent crimes, we all condemned the attacks on Nigerians, on Ghanaians, Zimbabweans, and what have you. Today, we're seeing a repetition of what happened in South Africa. If care is not taken, this can quickly degenerate. And yet, Raymond, Ghana and Nigeria historically are sister countries. Our ties even moves beyond the era when Ghana and Nigeria became independent sovereign countries. In the colonial era, there was a time this country and Nigeria were governed as one unit, British West Africa. with the headquarters in Sierra Leone.
That's true.
And so we have integrated, Ghanaians and Nigerians have integrated for far too long for these things to be happening. We should also be guided by history. In 1969, you know, we passed the Aliens Compliance Order. Quite a number of Nigerians were removed from this country and repatriated, if you like, deported to their home country. Then we had a backlash.
That's true.
In the 80s, when this country was struck with famine and hunger, the drought period,
that's true.
You know, most of our people sought refuge in Nigeria. But they also retaliated, and over 1 million Ghanaians were deported. Do we want to see a repetition of what happened in the 60s and 80s? I don't think it's in the interest of anybody for us to have a repetition of what happened in the past. And so it is important that the lessons of history should not be lost on Ghanaians. Yeah. Over the past few days, I have been following events closely. And it all started with the press statement that the Nigerian High Commissioner released.
I'll come to that. Let me take some introductory comments also from your colleague and the Honorable Vice Chair of the Defense and Interior Committee, the Chairman of the Government Assurance Committee. Luckily, you are an MP in the Ashanti region. So, Suame, I mean, of course, Suame's not very far from Meshadon. In between, yes, of course. Yes, I mean, you can see that Suame, CPC, then you can see Ashtown. Then, I mean, it actually is very close to where you are. Are you equally worried by this particular trend of activities now? Shops being ransacked, being closed down, even in the presence of security?
Raymond, first of all, let me state it unequivocally, without any fear of contradiction, that Africa, and for that matter, West Africa, face interconnected challenges relating to poverty, corruption, climate change, and what have you, which threatens the very foundation of our national life as people. So any attempt to sow a seed of discord will be more dangerous for all of us as people. First of all, we have an identity, and our identity is Africans. We are one people with a clear sense of direction. We are one people with a common destiny. Where from this brouhaha? In any case, we have a checkered, history.
Together.
Yes. So, personally, I'm not enthused with a strong statement that emanated from the Nigerian High Commissioner, in that we need not to revisit any historical antecedent, which brings memory. We need to forge ahead. We need to, move ahead as one people, irrespective of your country of origin, your religious practices, or your political leanings. We are one people. Honestly speaking, to every society there are rules of engagement, and we cannot say that Ghana, we are living isolated world. Of course, we are part of the global village. As a country and also as a state, every society has gotten its own laws. What I'm deducing from the argument is that it seems the matter at stake is a very cumbersome one, if indeed we want to find a solution to it. In that, we have our domestic laws that regulate this kind of relationship when it comes to, foreigners' participation in retail businesses in this country.
But I'll come to the retail part. Do we get a sense that, because first, it was all to do with whether or not Nigerians are spearheading kidnapping activities in the country? We knew of the Takoradi gentleman who was arrested in connection with the 3 girls. We also know how the 3 people who were arrested in Kumasi on the Canadian issue were issued. In fact, recently, in the last 2 weeks, there's been several reports, almost 7 of them, linking Nigerians to various crimes, be it robbery or kidnapping related. this was the first issue that the people were reacting to, what they call it, the High Commission. Then, on our hands, the Kumasi incident worsened the matter. I'll let you go back to Kumasi, but I'm asking whether or not, within ourselves as Ghanaians, have we always had some suspicion about Nigerians and what they can do or cannot do? Have we always blamed them for activities unrelated to them in this country?
Raymond, I am of the considered view that we should not narrow the discussion to Ghana, Nigeria. Of course, you and I know that crime wears no color.
I get you.
And there has been instances where some Malians were involved in criminal activities in this country to police and other foreign nationals, not only Nigerians. We have, I mean, quite a number of Nigerians who are in Ghana, I mean, very hardworking people, lovely, that we are all living, I mean, peacefully. Okay. Notwithstanding, to every society there are deviants. Yeah. And of course, once we live in a community or society, even conflicts are bound to happen. But the steps that you take to redress such conflicts determines how strong you are. I am thinking that instead of us to deepen this kind of sort of discord seed, I believe that we should rather dialogue. We need to re-engage with our neighboring, I mean, partners. Of course, we have lived for many years. We've been in existence. We engage ourselves in trading, except that there's a law which protects, and I'll come to that.
Okay, let me go to that quickly. Now, is it what the Constitution 27 talk in the JIPC Act talks about activities reserved for Ghanaians and Ghanaian-owned enterprises? It states that a person who is not a citizen or an enterprise which is not wholly owned by citizens shall not invest in or participate in A, the sale of goods or provisions of services in a market. That's the first point it makes. Petty trading or hawking, or selling of goods in a store at any place. That's the first point that the people in Guta are raising in this case, and that's the GIPC Act. B, the operation of taxi or car hire service in an enterprise that has a fleet of less than 25 vehicles. And it says C, the operation of a beauty salon or a barber shop. D, the printing of recharge cards for the use of subscribers of telecommunication services. And E, the production of exercise books and other basic stationery. Indeed, there's one about the retail of finished pharmaceutical products. And the G says the production, supply, and retail of sachet water. And H says all aspects of pool betting business and lotteries except football pool. And there's a B that talks about the minister in consultation with the MOD may by legislation amend the list and allow all of this to happen. There's also the claim on the other side, and this is our laws in this country. Article 3 of the ECOWAS revised treaty, it highlights as one of the main objectives of ECOWAS as promoting economic integration in the region by, among others, creating a common market.
That's right.
And it talks about even one essential step towards the realization of this is setting up what's called the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme.
Yes.
Just last week, we had ministers and representatives of Ghana in Nigeria discussing the same matter, ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. And of course, this is to ensure that goods can be circulated freely without the payment of custom duties and taxes with similar effects on imports. And aside from that, of course, you put in measures to facilitate trade by reducing red tape and paperwork at borders. When you see the international law and our municipal GIPC Act, is there any contradiction at all, lawyer?
There is a conflict.
There's a conflict?
Absolutely. No doubt about that. And at the same time, we are bound by the international protocols and treaties that we sign on to. Ghana has certain international obligations. The moment you sign on to an international protocol or treaty, and that is what it is with respect to those ECOWAS protocols that you have just cited with regards to free trade. Yeah. So if you ask me, Raymond, I'll tell you that there is need for us to realign our municipal legislation
We should change the GIPC.
We have to realign, I mean, the GIPC Act so that it is in tandem with our international obligations and commitment under the ECOWAS protocols. So these are challenges that we have to contend with as a country. And I have no doubt in my mind that the commitment we have at the level of ECOWAS, and even if you like, at the level of the African Union, remember that very soon the African Continental Free Trade Area
would also come into force.
And we've
been hailing that that's very important.
Yes,
and we've not been trading as well among our countries that we're supposed to do.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if all these international legal regimes, I mean, materialize, our own domestic law would have to be realigned, Raymond. We have to. And some arguments have been advanced that the reasons why we have practical challenges with regards to the implementation of Section 27 of the GIPC Act is because of the commitments we have at the level of the ECOWAS.
I see.
So for me, we need to rethink our positions. Coincidentally, Raymond, only today, we had a joint committee session with the GIPC and the Ghana Immigration Service on this same subject.
I see.
A referral was made by the Right Honourable Speaker to the Joint Committee of Trade and Defence and Interior to look into this issue. We just finished having a meeting with the CEO, Mr. UPfront of the GIPC, and officers from the Ghana Immigration Service.
I see.
These issues were thoroughly discussed. We're going to make proposals, recommendations, with the view to finding a lasting solution to this problem, the closure of shops belonging to Nigerians and foreigners who are alleged to be engaged in retail trade, contrary to Section 27 of the GIPC Act.
In your case, what would be that more reasonable approach? We review our laws, or we actually would ask ECOWAS to give us some waiver when it comes to implementation of our laws?
Well, I don't think you can begin to ask for waivers when you have clearly signed on to an international a treaty.
Of course, we didn't sign on to it today.
Yes, we didn't sign on to it today. What we should be focusing on, every country, first of all, has certain commitments to its citizens. And so if it is about improving upon the lot of Ghanaians, there are other ways of doing it without necessarily making it difficult for us to integrate as a sub-region. So the suggestion has been put out there that, look, why don't you grant tax incentives to Ghanaian businesses as opposed to closing the doors for foreign participation in retail trade? So it's a suggestion that is worth considering.
Okay.
If we were to realign, I mean, the GIPC Act, so that it is in tandem with our commitments at the level of ECOWAS, we could give grant tax incentives to local businesses.
I'll come to that. But I find it very worrying, and I'm reading a statement from the Ministry of Trade as far back as July 6, 2012. And the statement was headlined, Trade Ministry clarifies action against foreign retailers. This is what it says. It says the attention has been drawn to a number of statements in the public domain and in the media that show a basic misunderstanding of the exercise that's currently being undertaken by, and at that time there was an interagency task force led by the Ministry of Trade and Industry to ensure that foreign traders comply with the laws of Ghana. That means in times past, our approach was to make sure that they complied. And reference is made to the law I just read to you. It says here that when the ministry undertook this exercise, it was stated that the ministry was taking steps to enforce the GIPC Act 1994, Act 478, which made it clear that activities that are characterized as petty trading and small trading businesses were reserved in the Act for Ghanaians. Of course, it also talks about how the foreigners could engage and say, generally speaking, in order for a foreigner to undertake trading activities in Ghana, he or she must invest at least 300,000 United States dollars in their trading activity. The people that we are closing their shops today, do we know whether they've invested that amount or is far below that? Who determines that when the person in Suame is selling, let's say, engines and all of those, the person has not invested 300,000, and therefore cannot participate in that particular space?
So it is the exclusive mandate of the GIPC to make that determination.
Yes.
They even have some enforcement mechanism at their level, which is why it is extremely dangerous for people to take the law into their hands, identify shops that belong to so-called foreigners, and shut them down. I mean, there's everything wrong with that approach. And so in times past,
this is 2012.
Yes,
if at that time also government that was in place, if you have fixed this problem, we'll not be discussing it in
Raymond, that is why I am saying that, look, there are practical challenges when it comes to the implementation of the GIPC Act.
Which in the face, and it's been 7 years since the time.
In the face of our own commitments at the international level, the ECOWAS, and even if you like, very soon, the African Union. So we have to begin to rethink our position. That is why the conversation that is currently ongoing at the level of Parliament is very instructive. So we must all be circumspect. You don't take the law into your hands. You posed a very fundamental question about the guidelines for the participation in the retail space in our country. There are certain conditions foreigners must meet. So question to ask is, those who have gone to shut down and vandalize shops, how do you know whether those involved haven't met the conditions? How do you even identify the fact that somebody speaks with a Nigerian accent, a Lebanese accent, may not necessarily mean that the person is Nigerian or Lebanese.
Because citizens are
for all you know, you have the person has naturalized. In fact, there are many Nigerians roaming the streets of Accra
with Ghanaian passports,
and who are dual citizens.
Oh, I see.
In fact, they haven't even renounced their Nigerian citizenship. They are dual citizens. So it is something that must be watched carefully. Let us allow those who have the statutory mandate to carry out law enforcement to do their work. The immigration service is there, GIPC is there. They are not the ones who went and vandalized those shops or shut down the shops.
But how is it also possible? You've been in Interior Ministry, you've been at the ministry before, you've been a deputy minister there, for the police at the regional level to promise that don't worry, we'll protect you, open your shops. Then the next morning, the people cannot open their shops. The police is there, security is there, but the people are demonstrating, ransacking the place and preventing the people that have been promised protection by the police from opening their shops.
Raymond, I am scandalized by the inability of the security agencies to provide security after they had promised that they would provide maximum security for the foreigners involved in retail trade in the Suame area. Why? In times past, some group of lawless individuals took it upon themselves to shut down shops in the same Suame area. The law was enforced. Some arrests were effected.
Were they prosecuted?
Well, they were, after the arrest, attempts were made, you know, the two groups, even the Nigerian Association of Retail Traders and their counterparts locally engaged in some talks. So at that point, we decided to tone down a bit. But some arrests and detentions were made.
Their conduct was criminal, wasn't it?
It was criminal indeed.
It was a decision of the state to say that we will not.
No, but sometimes you see when you are when you're dealing with certain category of offences, the law allows for out of court negotiation. So
they didn't even go to court. From what you say, they didn't even go to court.
At the point of arrest, even the police themselves
can negotiate with you over a criminal matter and say that you can go. I mean,
they can caution and discharge you, ask you to go and be of good behavior.
So that's what we did to them. We cautioned and discharged them.
Yes, because they themselves accepted that they had
You certainly must regret this action because the people are back doing the same things today.
No. I think that the law enforcement agencies themselves, after giving out assurances that they were going to do everything within their power to forestall any outbreak of violence, probably did not do something right. And that is what has resulted in the vandalization.
But all that they needed was to be there, assure that the people were running their business. What was the big deal about doing something right? What else would they require to do at this time?
But I think it's sad. It's sad because the police didn't just give the assurance. They definitely had meetings with the Ghanaians involved in this whole brouhaha, and probably got assurances from them that nothing untoward would happen. So those who are engaged in this lawless conduct may also be acting in bad faith.
I see.
I'm sure the police themselves must have been taken aback.
I see. By their conduct.
Because there were some assurances and negotiations behind the scenes.
It happen without.
I think they should have effected some arrests like we did in the past.
And then let them go out eventually.
Yeah, they should, because the people are captured on tape. You see the cameraman. Yeah. The whole acts of...
And they were brazen. They didn't fear that there were other people there.
I think so. So we cannot allow these things to happen in our country.
I talked about the 2012 event. Now, in 2017, interestingly, the Deputy Trade Minister, Carlos Kingsley Ahenkwah, also made the same promise to these traders that they would implement their laws. Is this not because governments over the period have failed to ensure the implementation of your own laws, and have actually watched these things happen, so they have no moral authority to crack down the way from people that they told you that they are going to sack the people for you, and yet they never get sacked? I'm just making reference to the Carlos Ahenkwah story right away. He said the trade ministry vows to deal with foreigners trading in retail markets in the country. How do we deal with this?
Raymond, the issue is not as easy as you perceive it to be, in that where I sit, I find myself in a very awkward situation, in that you are protecting two distinct constituencies.
Two constituencies?
Yes.
I thought your constituency was the people of this republic, clearly.
But we also have Ghanaians who ply their trade elsewhere, even in Nigeria.
Lawfully or
and we are told over 2 million Ghanaians. Lawfully?
Yes.
Yes.
But there's a question about whether or not these people ought to be there.
What does their law also
governments have agreed that these people are illegally engaging?
No, we need to research into this particular issue.
But we can't do that now. We've gone beyond those points.
Listen. So how would you know? How would you know?
But what have informed the trade ministry in this particular case? What would have informed them in saying that we will deal with foreigners trading in retail markets?
Because the law is clear on that.
But suggests that the people are doing it. It's not so.
Have you also, bothered to find out how many Ghanaians also ply their trade in Nigeria?
Illegally?
No, we are not talking about illegality here. No.
If a Nigerian owns a shop at ShopRite, that's not what they are debating now. We are talking specifically about regulations that they say they are abusing. In the statement from the 2012 one, there was an admission that there's some wrongdoing happening. In the statement from this particular 2017 one, there's also admission that some grouping, Nigerians and others, of course, there's reference to Chinese in this particular case too, are abusing laws of this country. Why have we not been able to get the right thing done all these years? That's what I'm asking you. Why do you think that the Ghanaians should take the law into their own hands when law enforcement is supposed to be there?
Raymond, you see, the difficulty we find ourselves here is that have you also, find out whether indeed Ghanaians also in Nigeria are also engaging in retail business.
Okay.
It's very important.
Does Nigerian law forbid retail?
Exactly. So we need to sit down. That's the reason I'm calling for dialogue. Yeah. We need to research into this particular project to know whether indeed Nigerians also have some kind of domestic laws to regulate such business of such nature. Mm-hmm. It's very important. I see. So that if you want to implement,
so it will be reciprocity.
Fantastic.
Okay.
If not, if you take any decision and you don't conduct yourself well, my brother, it will be disastrous. It will be disastrous.
Do you support his call that maybe our GIPC Act ought to be reviewed to reflect what the international law position is?
Yes, I share the same position that I think there are some defects as far as the GIPC Act 2013 is concerned, especially Section 27. Yeah. Of course, we have reserved certain aspect of the economic, what do you call it, activities for indigenous people. Notwithstanding, Ghanaians elsewhere are also engaging
in
similar activities.
I see.
So we don't want to have a situation where it will be seen as if you do me, I do you.
Okay.
It will be suicidal. That is the reason why we are appealing to all stakeholders to remain calm.
Guta is the strongest bloc in the area. Guta is the grouping that has mastered people into markets and gone to drive out Nigerians before. Why have we not been able to call them to order? Or you still think it's all about negotiating with them?
Of course, and I mean that is the appropriate to at this material moment we could apply. Guta is here to engage the committee. Let me put it on record. Okay. Yes, because they are the main petitioners. Okay. Yes, so we are engaging all the relevant stakeholders. Mind you, this afternoon we engaged GIPC officials and the Ghana Immigration Service. We are here to engage national security, the Ministry of Interior. Okay. Then again, Guta would also appear before the committee to, as it were, throw more light on their concerns. The law is clear, but it's not as easy when it comes to its implementation because of laws elsewhere.
Some bottlenecks. Okay, I'll take a break. When we come back from the break, some say the statement from the Nigerian High Commission to Ghana worsened the environment for this operation. Some also say a purported comment by a professor speaking to a grouping which has gone viral is also part of the things fueling the current condition. What can we do about these incidents going forward too? After the break, we'll continue with that front. You're welcome back. This is UPfront, triangulating a way out of the current mess around retail space and who is qualified to lead trading in the particular area, coming on the heels of the recent ransacking just this afternoon, this morning, or in the mid-mornings of this day. We've had the complaint from the Nigerian shop owners at Suame that Ghanaians, some belonging to groups, have come to ransack the place. Indeed, the police actually warned that they were going to protect the people, yet this did not happen, and we have the situation on our hands there. Indeed, they also complained that some of their goods have been stolen, and the people, if you are seeing on your screen, there's some wearing masks, wearing some red bands on their heads. In the full presence of the media and proper coverage, they were brazen, they were bold enough to go out there and make sure that they still do the things that they said they would do, destroying things that belongs to people they consider to be non-Ghanaians, people they consider to be engaging in some form of illegality there. But let's come in studio, because we've been having a conversation with my guest already on this particular matter. And I did tell earlier on that the Vice Chair of the Defense Interior and also the Government Assurance Committee's Chairman, Owusu-Amankwah, is with us here. He's also an MP from the Ashanti region, and also the Member of Parliament who is speaking consistently and has been a Deputy Minister in the Interior Ministry before. It's on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, is the Honorable James Agala. Gentlemen, you're welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before I went on that particular break, and before we go, I want us to state clearly what we think should be done right now. I know what your committee is doing.
Yes.
Currently, what should the Ashanti Region Police do? 2, what should the nation as a whole do about this particular incident, so we are not seeing in the likes of the South African incidents that happened and cast in the mold of their kind?
Raymond, fortunately for us, the acts of vandalism, the riotous behavior of those individuals who took the law into their hands this afternoon was carried out in the full glare of the media.
I see. Yeah, of course.
So you have video footage of whatever happened in Suame. I think the security agencies should be up and doing. They should immediately cause the apprehension of those who resorted to the lawless behavior this afternoon. That is the only way we can send out positive signals that in this country we are not prepared to countenance xenophobia in all its forms. whether it assumes violent proportions or remains at the level where people begin to harbor hatred for our Nigerian brethren. We must send out a very strong signal. In the past, action was taken when some group of people decided to take the law into their hands and close down shops. Arrests were effected. I think we should not be compromising in the face of lawless behavior. Let us send out a very strong signal. If we don't do that, the next time, what we would see could be worse than what we have seen today. I don't want to predict doom. But should these things be allowed to happen in our country, Raymond, have we adverted our minds to the likely consequences, the repercussions of our behavior on fellow Ghanaians residing outside of our territory, Ghanaians living in Nigeria and elsewhere? Have we adverted our minds to the dangers our behavior within our home country is likely to expose those compatriots of ours in other countries?
And you certainly reject the counter-argument that these are Ghanaians who are upholding the laws of this country, who are arresting people or preventing people from continuous breach of our laws.
Raymond, I've made a point in very clear terms that, first of all, you read the law and you know the law allows for foreigners to meet certain conditions, and when they meet those conditions, they are entitled to participate. But you see, if you take the law into your own hands in the manner that we have seen unfold this afternoon, first of all, you are not able to tell who is engaged in the retail trade.
You don't even have the procedure properly laid out.
You don't have the procedure properly laid out. Secondly, what mechanisms have they used to identify people who possibly have become Ghanaian through the legal process, naturalization, those who are dual citizens, etc. In any case, the mandate,
they go and ask you to show your national ID.
Absolutely, the mandate to enforce our law is vested in identifiable agencies of state, the Ghana Immigration Service, the GIPC, and the police.
Yes.
We have had interministerial task forces in place. Parliament is looking into this whole issue. So what they should allow the institutions of state to work and not take the law into their hands.
Honorable, what should we do currently to this situation? Do you support the claim that they ought to be arrested?
Of course, but I think I've heard that police has held a press conference this afternoon indicating their preparedness to, as it were, manhunt those perpetrators. So I think we are all on the same page to fish out, I mean, those who are fond of
and this time they should not be bonded to be of good behavior, or you don't think so?
Well, I think they should be
through the full rigors of the law
and be prosecuted and possibly jailed.
Now, you don't support that claim.
To serve as deterrent.
As a minor issue.
That would be harsh. You know what?
Okay, forgive me, but let's make the point. I'll come
you know what? If you listen to their agitations, I think it is legitimate in that is what the law dictates in the first place. Because what Guta is saying, they are not saying that we should deny foreigners from participating or even engaging in any trading activity. But what they are saying is certain areas
are reserved
and Ghanaians. It seems non-Ghanaians or foreigners have invaded that territory, so they want protection. But
is it too late to ask ourselves why we allow the people to invade the first place? Is it too late? Didn't they take up shops from Ghanaians? Didn't they buy space from Ghanaians? Didn't they go through the process of replacing? Because I don't see any Nigerian just coming to Ghana and going to establish a shop somewhere in the market, and it's possible.
That is why I'm coming to what I've termed Ghanaian attitude.
Okay.
Because per the law, and indeed per the Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act 2013, Section 40 is clear on that you can't let out store within any market to a foreigner. But when you visit, I mean, KJTR, to do Makola, It's the very Ghanaian people who are fronting for all these foreigners, and they turn around to blame the system.
I see.
Meanwhile, they are part of the problem.
I see.
So we need to change our attitude. We need to change our attitude.
I get your point.
I think it's a legitimate cause, except that it must not lead into any violent extremism.
Okay.
Our laws frowns on that, and for me, we need to re-engage our brothers. Sit down, Jojo, let's come out with a solution to this particular matter. At the end of the day, all of us will continue to have sound mind to operate. We need not to fight.
So the parliamentary probe, when is it going to end?
Well, I think I don't think we'll be able to finish
because these are urgent matters before us now.
No,
will we be able to get some finality before
I believe latest by next week it will be done. Okay. Latest by next week.
Okay, I get your point. The Honorable, I was talking about how we also participate in some of these breaches and how we, for example, allow people to come in there. But when I asked that, are we going to be bold enough to prosecute the people, you seem not to endorse the call.
No, Raymond, I haven't said that.
Yes, but your official suggested that.
I mean,
you did not think that Ghanaians ought to go to jail for vandalism.
No. We must put matters in their proper context.
Which context means?
Context is important because what happened in 2012, 2013, thereabout, had nothing to do with the if you like, acts of vandalism.
Yeah.
Properties were not destroyed.
They shut down shops.
They shut down shops. And that was it and left.
Yeah.
Now, the leaders of the group that allegedly shut down the shops were arrested and detained. Now, subsequent to the arrest and detention, efforts were made by the very group those individuals belong to try to engage.
And they opened the shops.
And they opened the shops on their own volition. So clearly they demonstrated good faith. And so the circumstances are not exactly the same. But the events of today, today, people have actually destroyed property. Those acts of vandalism are criminal and cannot be settled the way we previously or dealt with like we dealt with the previous issue. Okay. So that's why I'm talking about context.
I get your
point. The context is not exactly the same.
I get your point in this case. Now, there are two leading issues on this. And again, we cannot dissociate them because it's still about Nigeria. The first one was the High Commissioner's statement. I've heard some say it was not particularly diplomatic. It had overtones, suggestions that made it look like all Nigerians were being painted with the same brush in this country. It suggested that there were media reports that were doing so. But I've scanned virtually all the newspapers every single morning. Particularly, they made reference to Nigerians and said that they were committing specific crimes. In any case, for example, when reference is made to Nigerians in the Canadian case, I heard the Minister of State in charge of national security tell us, indeed, the Nigerians recruited Ghanaians to commit the act. So, was there anything wrong at all, in your estimation, in what the High Commissioner put out there as a state representative and somebody in a diplomatic role?
Well, diplomatically, I think that there are channels of communication.
Yeah.
And so maybe the Nigerian High Commissioner could have used the appropriate channels of communication in stating his case about the, if you like, negative reportage.
So at least he gets briefing from the relevant state institutions before he even gets to engage the GJ and other groupings.
Absolutely. But, well, he decided to adapt the approach that he has adapted by issuing a press statement. Whether or not the tone of that statement is diplomatic or not, I will leave that for those who are more experienced in matters of diplomacy to decide. But having said that, Raymond, for me, the crux of the matter is that in this country, the statistics are very clear, crime statistics. And if you want to take into account the nationality of people who engage in criminal conduct in our country, I think the Nigerians belong to a tiny fraction. That point must not be lost on anyone.
Are we not comparing them to citizens of Ghana? We're talking about non-Ghanaians and the category they belong to.
Raymond,
are they still in a very,
Raymond, and so we have to be careful here.
Yeah.
When you place emphasis on the nationality of criminals, whether you like it or not, you are stereotyping a larger group of people. So if the emphasis constantly is on Nigerians, 2 Nigerians have been shot dead. Nigerians are the ones who recruited Ghanaian kidnappers.
Even if it's a statement of fact.
How is that a statement of fact? The issue involving the kidnapping of the Canadians. Yeah, so the facts are going to be established. The facts are going to be established.
Yes.
So Raymond, for me, we have to be careful here. Sensationalism must be checked, because we are guided by certain historical events that unfolded in South Africa. The reportage, the falsification of facts on social media led to the unfortunate violence that had xenophobic undertones in that country. And so we would want to be guided. For me, why? Criminals are criminals, regardless of their nationality. If you commit a crime and you are arrested, you are arrested.
Say that when we
the point I'm making is, let us not place emphasis on nationality.
But
criminals are criminals.
There are 57 newspapers that talks about people from other countries committing crimes in this country.
Yes.
When did it become so insensitive that we cannot mention?
If you consider for instance, Raymond, we have so many Nigerians living in Ghana.
Yes.
I'm saying that out of the number that lives in our country, only a tiny fraction of them are engaged in criminal conduct. So we need to be careful.
But in none of the
we should be careful
reports,
so as not to stereotype
said
the
that
larger group.
all Nigerians have done something wrong. No newspaper said that.
No, but the constant reference to nationality.
So we should not permanently leave out the nationality.
No, we're not saying so. We're saying that let us be measured.
In this
let
country,
us be measured.
We have talked about Lebanese treating Ghanaians poorly in workplaces. We didn't have to say that because Lebanese will be seen in certain light, we cannot mention their nationality.
Well, Raymond.
Yes, I was bringing you in on this point.
I am surprised at the comment from my senior.
You disagree with him?
Yes, I disagree with him. In that, why must we not be in the known
of the nationality
of a criminal? Much as I agree with him, that we ought to be circumspect, because these are issues or matters that are very sensitive and delicate.
Okay.
Notwithstanding, facts are facts. We must be in the known, the background of a particular criminal, so that going forward, even police, it will help police
to stereotype,
not to stereotype, or in no stigmatization, but rather to be able to track. If indeed,
to show a trend,
if indeed a particular crime is coming from, a cross-section of people.
Okay.
Yes, it will help the police to know how to regulate such environment.
So, for example, you know Ashtown, right?
Yes.
In Kumasi, Ashtown.
Yes.
And they say that there are people who largely engage in drugs in Ashtown. Would that be fair to you? Just because they've arrested people from Ashtown who have actually engaged in drugs. Would that be fair to the people?
Why is it wrong to mention the town that these criminals reside in?
There's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong, except that
every other claim person will feel that you are just making it look like we are all the same.
Raymond, you did logic.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm sure when it comes to fallacious statement, you know.
I get you very well.
Fantastic. What Agala is saying is like you are committing fallacy of equivocation. That is using part of the thing to describe the whole thing.
To generalize.
To generalize, yes. In that, we have every right to know
what the characteristics of the person who is committing the crime is.
Exactly. That's why I'm surprised. So we should be able to mention Ghanaian names, but not Nigerians or Malians. Why? Why are they suggesting? Senior?
No, you
Why?
see, I think
No,
we need to put into proper perspective.
Okay.
The point I have made.
Okay.
I'm saying that care should be taken.
All right. Not that they should not be put out there.
Yes, but care should be taken. The headlines, sensationalism should be brought to its barest minimum.
I get you.
With respect to the issue of foreigners engaged in the commission of crime, so as not to stereotype some countries. I'm saying that the emphasis, when I talk about emphasis, I'm saying that yes, you can talk about the nationality of criminals, but that should not be the emphasis. After all,
so for example, we can't say Nigerians are at it again.
That's wrong.
But we can say that a Nigerian has been shot in connection with the crime.
Absolutely. That's the point I'm making.
So I like the article.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm making.
But finally, this professor, I'm sure we've watched the video, we've seen this particular video. This professor who is allegedly extolling the virtues of Nigeria and asking them to use some tactics to play up their country's relevant roles and all of that. Do you find anything wrong with that particular tape? Well, we understand security actually gave him bail after interrogating him.
Yes. The comments, if you watch the video carefully, is designed to incite Nigerians against Ghanaians. That is most unfortunate. That's most unfortunate.
Some say that he was just doing the bidding of his state. The states do that all the time.
Most of the things he said are also not accurate.
They were not factual.
They are not even factual.
Okay.
So I don't really know what the motive of the professor is when he said the kinds of things that are captured on video.
Should we dismiss it as just tough guy bravado and just say, oh, well, he was just running his mouth, or we should take it serious?
Well, as to whether the statement he made could be criminalized or not, I don't want to sound prejudicial because the matter is under investigation. But if you ask me, seriously speaking, I think the two countries should engage at the diplomatic level and calm down nerves. This should not be the reason why Ghana and Nigeria should be at loggerheads. Remember that we're the two leading economies in West Africa.
Yes, actually.
We play a pivotal role at the level of ECOWAS. We cannot allow. We cannot allow. These things to mar our otherwise very excellent relationship.
Your view on that, briefly, sir.
Well, personally, I'm not enthused. When you watch the video and also listening to comments coming from a whole professor, and then you'll be amazed. Why is the professor trying to sow a seed of discord between Ghanaians and Nigerians? Why? What does he gain from doing that?
I get you.
So I think we should all condemn it, and you should rather come out and...
He should not be prosecuted.
I'm not saying we should tamper justice with mercy, but we should condemn it, on certain terms.
I get you.
And also,
I'm talking about prosecution. Should he?
We must crucify him publicly.
Not necessarily before the court. Diplomatic level. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Well, folks, that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of Upfront. My name is Raymond Alkwa, and from Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee, the ranking member and the vice chair. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.